On May 24, 1997, a Saturday in Hyogo Prefecture, located in the Kinki region of western Japan, the port city of Kobe was bustling as usual. On weekends, a boy named Jun Hase would typically be allowed by his mother to visit his grandmother. His home was not far from his grandmother's, only about a 10-minute walk. After lunch that day, he asked his mother if he could go to his grandmother's house. Since Jun Hase often went alone and the distance was not far, his mother agreed. Jun Hase said goodbye to his mother, and everything seemed normal, as it always was when he visited his grandmother. However, a few hours later, the phone at home suddenly rang. His mother answered, and it was Jun Hase's grandmother on the line. She asked why she hadn't seen Jun Hase at her house yet that day. The boy's mother was very confused. She said that Jun Hase had left a few hours ago and should have arrived by then. After talking for a while, both realized that something was wrong and quickly went out to look for him. As time passed, it soon became dark. Jun Hase's mother and grandmother searched everywhere but could not find him. Feeling uneasy and desperate, they went to the local police to report the incident. The missing person was an 11-year-old boy named Jun Hase. After receiving the report, the police immediately dispatched officers to assist in the search and questioned Jun Hase's classmates and teachers. However, no one knew where he was. Every possible location he might have visited was searched, but there was no trace of him anywhere. Jun Hase seemed to have vanished without a trace. On May 27, 1997, 3 days after Jun Hase went missing, a disturbing scene unfolded at Tomogaoka Junior High School in Kobe City. It was 6:40 a.m. when a staff member arrived at the school gates for a routine day, but was met with a horrifying sight: a severed head lying amidst the entrance. At first, he thought it was a mannequin head, but a closer look revealed a grim reality. It was a human head, its chin stuck to the ground, appearing as if it had sprouted from the earth itself. Overcome with terror, he rushed to the nearest phone to alert the police. His voice trembled with panic as he reported the gruesome discovery. Soon, the quiet morning was pierced by the urgent wail of sirens, and a somber atmosphere enveloped Kobe. The police quickly cordoned off the school and began their investigation. At the gate, they found 4 bloodstains arranged around the victim's head, which was placed in the center of the entrance for maximum visibility. Initial theories suggested the perpetrator had tried to hang the head on the school gate wall, as evidenced by bloodstains there, but had ultimately positioned it at the entrance for unknown reasons. Upon closer examination, officers noted that the cut on the victim's head was eerily clean, and a black bag had been placed underneath it. The boy was soon identified as Jun Hase, an 11-year-old 5th grader who had vanished days earlier. His eyes were scratched, and 2 7-centimeter tears at the sides of his mouth gave him a grotesque, clown-like smile. Compounding the horror, a taunting letter was found stuffed in his mouth. The message was chilling. "The game has begun, you foolish police. Try to stop me. Killing brings me joy, and I really want to see them dead. Join these filthy ones in judgment by death. Let fresh blood punish my years of resentment." The letter featured a cross symbol reminiscent of the Zodiac killer and was signed off as the Drunken Rose, though the envelope oddly bore the name Drunken Rose. After securing the scene, the police expanded their search to the surrounding areas. About 500 meters from the school, near a cable TV station on Mount Tank, they found the rest of Jun Hase's body. His clothes were intact and there were no defensive wounds or traces of another person's skin under his nails, indicating he had not resisted before his death. This brutal crime left the local community in shock, deeply fearful for the safety of their children. Parents hesitated to let their kids go out alone, preferring safety in numbers. The pressure on local law enforcement to quickly solve this appalling case and reassure the frightened public was immense. According to the autopsy results, the cause of death of Jun Hase was asphyxiation. The estimated time of death was between 3 p.m. and 5 p.m. on the day he disappeared, May 24, 1997. On that day, Jun Hase left his home at 1:40 p.m. to visit his grandmother's house. It is possible that he encountered the perpetrator on his way. Since there were no signs of struggle or resistance on his body, it is likely that Jun Hase knew the perpetrator and was lured away. The police investigated Jun Hase's personal relationships. However, being only 11 years old, his social circle was very simple, mostly consisting of classmates and teachers at school. Jun Hase had no known conflicts, and his family had no enemies. This raised the question, why would the perpetrator target such a defenseless boy? This question greatly puzzled the police. Following the incident, the police continuously received reports. A witness living near Mount Tank reported seeing a man around 40 years old, about 170 centimeters tall, riding a motorcycle into the forest a few days prior. Another witness mentioned seeing a suspicious man riding a motorcycle very fast near the school the night before the head was found. Someone else reported seeing a suspicious black car parked near the boy's home 2 days before the incident. Additionally, a witness saw a black car near Mount Tank. One witness claimed to have seen a muscular man with a buzz cut in the area. Based on these clues, the police sketched a profile of the suspect. All individuals matching these descriptions were investigated. However, the initial direction of the police investigation was wrong, and a lot of time was wasted, which they would only realize later. As the media covered the story extensively, the public was greatly shocked. The criminal signed the letter with the name The Drunken Rose, but the Kobe Shimbun newspaper mistakenly reported it as the Rose Devil, which infuriated the perpetrator. A few days later, on June 4, 1997, the Kobe Shimbun received a letter from the criminal. The envelope was brown and had no return address. The letter, 3 pages long and about 1,400 characters written in red ink, was postmarked June 3, 1997. It stated, "I am betting my life on this game. If I get caught, I might be executed. The police must be fiercer and more relentless in chasing me. Only by killing can I be freed from the hatred I endure, and only then can I feel relieved. Only by inflicting pain on others can I soothe my own." Additionally, the letter criticized the Japanese education system, calling it compulsory education that shaped him into an invisible person. In the taunting letter, the perpetrator also referred to 3 other cases he had committed. He explained the meaning behind the name The Drunken Rose, expressing his irritation at the newspaper's misreporting of his name. He emphasized once more that his name is the Drunken Rose, not the Rose Devil. He warned, "From now on, if my name is misread or my mood spoiled, I will kill 3 vegetables each week. If you think I only target children, you are greatly mistaken." A psychologist mentioned that he used the term vegetables because he did not view his victims as human. Judging by the tone and handwriting in the statement, the police concluded that the letter must have been written by an adult. This further supported their initial assessment. The letter also referred to 3 other cases that occurred more than 3 months before the case of Jun Hase, opening up a new direction for the investigation and helping to find the missing pieces of the puzzle. Rewind 3 months earlier. On February 10, 1997, around 4:30 p.m., two elementary school girls were walking home together after school when they were suddenly attacked from behind with a hammer by an assailant who then fled the scene. One girl was severely injured, while the other sustained lighter injuries. Since the attack came from behind, the children could not clearly see who assaulted them. They only remembered that the assailant was dressed in a uniform, holding a school bag, and appeared slightly older than them. After learning about the incident, the parents of the two girls contacted Tomogaoka Junior High School in nearby Kobe City to request photos of all students, hoping the girls could identify their attacker. However, the school, concerned about possible complications and eager to protect its reputation, declined their request. Due to the vague statements from the two girls, the police did not pursue compulsory measures. With a lack of clues, the case was investigated for several months without resolution. A month after the girls were assaulted, on March 16, 1997, another incident occurred. That afternoon, a girl named Ayaka Yamashita was playing in Rugasaki Park when someone struck her on the head with a hammer from behind. A passerby found her and took her to the hospital. Unfortunately, due to severe head injuries, she died 9 days later. On the same day that Ayaka was attacked, another girl was also severely stabbed. Fortunately, this girl survived after being taken to the hospital. Given the suddenness of these events, the surviving girl was too terrified to clearly see the attacker's face. The police were initially unable to determine whether these incidents were committed by the same person. It was only after the case of Jun Hase, when the perpetrator sent letters to the media, that the police realized these incidents were all linked to the same individual. Based on the description from the girl in the first incident, the attacker wore a uniform and carried a school bag, indicating they might be a student. If all these incidents were indeed carried out by the same person, the police's initial investigation direction was completely wrong. This criminal could potentially be a minor. During the preliminary investigation, a minor had been seen frequently at the crime scenes. But the police had not considered the possibility of a minor being involved, thus no suspicion was directed at them. Upon realizing that their investigation might have been gravely flawed, the police adjusted their tactics. They conducted searches of all households in the nearby area, focusing particularly on families with minors. Recently, there had been frequent cases of animals being mutilated in the surrounding areas, and several stray cats had mysteriously disappeared. A few days before Jun Hase's body was found, someone placed a dead cat in front of a high school gate, and soon after, a headless pigeon was found nearby. During the investigation, police suspected a 14-year-old high school student. He was attending Tomogaoka Junior High School in Kobe, which was also the location where Jun Hase's body was found. Since the suspect was a minor and in order to protect children's rights, his name was not disclosed. He will be referred to as Boy A. More than 3 months after the attack on two girls, Boy A was placed on the suspect list, although the police lacked concrete evidence. During their investigation of Jun Hase's crime scene, Boy A was observed sneaking around and peeping. The detective, assuming he was merely curious, advised him to go home early. Subsequently, the police visited the middle school Boy A attended. When they compared his handwriting to that in a letter from the perpetrator, they noticed a strong resemblance. Previously, a girl who was slightly injured had accidentally seen a photo of Boy A and confirmed that he was the one who attacked her that day. With these pieces of evidence, on June 28, 1997, a month after Jun Hase's incident, the police immediately went to Boy A's house and arrested him. Upon searching his home, they discovered thousands of comic books, horror videos, and many adult-themed animations in his room. Initially, Boy A refused to confess, but under immense pressure, he admitted to his crimes. Born in 1982, he is the eldest son in his family, which includes two younger brothers, making a total of 5 members living together. After his parents divorced, he lived with his mother, who was quite strict with him. Whenever he made a mistake, she would beat him mercilessly. Growing up in such an oppressive environment destabilized his mental condition, often leading to a loss of emotional control. Before starting school, despite knowing his unstable mental state, his mother pressured him to test into a private elementary school. He failed to achieve notable results and ended up attending a public elementary school instead. For convenience, at the age of 7, he moved to live with his grandmother near the school. His grandmother treated him well, and they even raised some small animals together. During this time, his mental condition gradually improved, yet he detested his mother and adored his grandmother. In 1993, when he was 11 and in the 5th grade, his grandmother passed away due to old age, which was a huge blow to him. Her sudden death left him feeling extremely lonely, sad, and desperate. This tragic event sparked his fascination with death, leading him to dissect frogs and snails and watch numerous horror films at home. He rarely spoke, had no friends, and sometimes brought sharp weapons to school, even going so far as to place pins on classmates' seats. Once he even threw scissors at a female classmate. After these actions, he felt very pleased and satisfied. Over time, he was no longer content with dissecting frogs and instead targeted pigeons and crows, eventually moving on to stray cats, not only dissecting them, but also chopping their bodies into pieces. In his mind, he imagined a fictional deity and drew its image on paper. After each offense, he recorded his feelings in a diary and fantasized about praying under the protection of this deity, hoping to avoid arrest by the police. He believed that another persona within him was awakening, whom he called the Drunken Rose Saint. The Drunken Rose Saint, pronounced Sakakibara Sato, is a play on words where Sakakibara sounds like his homeroom teacher's surname and Sato sounds like student. Thus, the real meaning behind the Drunken Rose Saint is the student of Sakakibara. Through his signature, he directly let the police know his identity, which can also be seen as a profound provocation. In February 1995, when he was 13, introduced by his brother, he met and befriended Jun Hase, who was the same age as his brother and a close friend. He frequently bullied other students and even stole dangerous items like knives and hammers from stores. After his teachers became aware of his actions, they contacted his mother, who took him to a hospital for treatment. Doctors diagnosed him with psychological issues, perceiving his view of his environment as distorted and warped. After 3 months of treatment, he showed some improvement and returned to school. He wrote an essay on the decomposition of corpses and threatened to take revenge on his teachers. In February 1997, when he was 14, he committed his first in a series of crimes by attacking 2 girls with a hammer while they were on their way home from school, injuring them. A month later in Ryugasaki Park, he met Ayaka Yamashita walking alone, then pretended to ask where the restroom was. The kind girl led him there. Seizing the moment when no one was around, he told Ayaka Yamashita, "Turn around, I want to thank you." As she turned, he immediately struck her head with a hammer and quickly fled the scene. During his escape, he ran into another girl and brutally stabbed her in the stomach. Before committing these crimes, he wrote in his diary, "Dissecting animals no longer satisfies me, and I want to see how fragile humans are." After the attacks, he wrote, "This morning, my mother watched the news and told me, 'That poor girl, she seems to have died. There are no signs that I have been caught. I thank God for this, and please continue to protect me.'" After school, he often wandered around nearby wooded areas to catch and dissect live animals more frequently. Once he even called a classmate to threaten, "I will kill you just like I butcher animals." After being threatened, the classmates, terrified, told their parents and teachers. When the teachers directly asked him what was happening, he coldly replied, "What's the difference between human life and that of ants or cockroaches? Only my life matters." The teacher was shocked by his words and contacted his mother. However, she simply thought that the pressure of studying might have prompted him to say such things. Later, he was sent to the Kobe Child Guidance Center for psychological treatment. He was diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. After a short period of treatment, he returned to school but did not cease his behaviors. Realizing that this was indeed the culprit responsible for the crime, the police immediately arrested Boy A, who then confessed to the horrific atrocities committed on the fateful day of Jun Hase. On May 24, 1997, it was a Saturday, and with nothing to do, he rode his bike out for a stroll to look for a target. That afternoon, he saw Jun Hase walking alone on his way to his grandmother's house. Jun Hase was a schoolmate of his younger brother, and they were acquainted. Knowing that Jun Hase liked turtles, he enticed the boy by saying, "There's a unique green turtle near Mount Tank. Do you want to go see it with me?" Unsuspecting and curious, Jun Hase followed him up Mount Tank. They climbed the mountain via a shortcut known as the Chocolate Stairs. In a secluded area, he initially intended to strangle Jun Hase with his hands. However, realizing the difficulty, he suddenly used a rope to strangle Jun Hase to death. After killing Jun Hase, he experienced an unprecedented sense of satisfaction. He then began to contemplate how to hide the body. He found a cable television area in the Tank Mountain Forest, surrounded by fences and overgrown grass, which was ideal for hiding the body. However, the fence was locked, and breaking it would arouse suspicion. Therefore, he went to a hardware store, stole a lock and a saw while going unnoticed. He cut the old lock on the fence, hid Jun Hase's body inside, and covered it with branches and leaves. Before leaving, he replaced the old lock with the new one. After finishing, he leisurely returned home as if nothing had happened. He thought to himself that although he had beheaded dozens of cats, he had never beheaded a person and wanted to try it. Therefore, the next day he returned to the crime scene and used the stolen saw to decapitate Jun Hase. After completing these indescribable acts, he felt extremely satisfied both physically and mentally. He then hid the head in a tree hollow and disposed of the crime tools in a pond in Chikunishi Park. The next day, realizing that the body would eventually be discovered, he decided to take the initiative to let others know rather than wait. A crazy idea struck him to place the head at the school gate, thinking that by doing so, the police would not suspect a student. He chose this spot for two reasons. First, it was highly visible to anyone passing by. Second, he despised the school's education system and believed that discovering the head at the school gate would negatively impact the school. He executed his gruesome plan, taking the head out of the tree hollow and placing it in a black trash bag. After returning home, he shaved his head clean to disrupt the police investigation and decided to masquerade as the perpetrator's image. He enjoyed manga and copied phrases from a comic book, altering some words to craft a taunting letter. The tone resembled that of an adult. At 1 a.m. on May 27, 1997, he arrived in front of the high school gate. Initially, he attempted to place the head on the wall to attract more attention, but after several failed attempts, he couldn't secure it. Then he tried placing the head in a corner, but it was not easily visible and did not achieve the shock he desired. Finally, he placed the head right in the middle of the school gate. After making sure everything was in place, he stood there for about 5 minutes before biking home. The next morning, a school staff member discovered the horrifying scene. Although he committed a horrific crime, the perpetrator was a minor and therefore was not subject to criminal law, but only to juvenile law. The case of a juvenile psychopathic killer sparked intense and heated debates in Japan. While Boye's defense attorney urged the public not to sensationalize the case to facilitate the child's reintegration into society, the victims' families vehemently demanded that the government provide them with information about the perpetrator. 2 months after the incident, on July 25, 1997, he was transferred to a juvenile correctional facility. Diagnosed by psychologists, Boye was found to exhibit antisocial personality traits and was a typical case of hikikomori syndrome. From the perspective of hikikomori, analysts and psychologists noted worrying similarities between Boye and the serial killer Tsutomu Miyazaki in 1989. He had been on a path to violence since elementary school, often bringing weapons to school. In one instance, he had asked a girl to turn around and then attacked her without any sense of guilt. A classic sign of antisocial personality disorder. The doctors recommended long-term treatment to rectify his twisted personality, and he was subsequently sent to Kanto Juvenile Medical School for psychological therapy. In a surprising development on March 11, 2004, the Japanese Ministry of Justice announced that 21-year-old Boye would be temporarily reintegrated into society after 6 years of supervision in a reform school. However, the supervision of Boye only lasted until December 31, 2004, and he would be completely freed on January 1, 2005. By 2013, when he was 31 years old, a newspaper located him and asked him to write an autobiography. He agreed, but after the manuscript was submitted, the publisher's editor found the content too detailed. It graphically described all the details of his crimes and mental journey, even after undergoing juvenile reform, and he seemed to show no remorse. The publisher asked him to make revisions, but he refused to change anything, and eventually, both parties terminated the contract under less than favorable conditions. 2 years later, in June 2015, when he was 33 years old, he published an autobiography through Oda Publishing titled Zeka, A Song of Despair. In it, he expressed regret for his crimes and detailed the sales publicly. He also contacted the victims' families, offering to use the royalties from the book sales to compensate them, and sent apology letters with money. The victims' families were outraged by his action of publishing the autobiography and outright refused the compensation from the royalties. Despite the efforts of the Jun Hase family to prevent the release of the book Zeka, although some bookstores refused to stock the book, it still quickly became a bestseller in Japan, selling over 250,000 copies. Months later, he even set up a frivolous website where he posted edited bizarre images of a naked man, purportedly himself. Outraged by the brazen actions of the cold-blooded killer, and in response to his controversial actions, Shukan newspaper publicly revealed the real identity of Sakakibara Sato as Shinichiro Azuma, along with his current address and occupation at that time. While Shinichiro Azuma may not be punished for his crimes, his life thereafter could not be peaceful. His life now might not be mentioned by anyone, but perhaps the sentence of conscience will follow him for the rest of his life. This case represents an extremely brutal juvenile crime in Japanese society. After the case, Japan proposed amendments to the juvenile law, lowering the age of criminal responsibility from 16 to 14 in 2000. Many other legal amendments related to juvenile crime are still being discussed. The case also serves as a cautionary lesson for parents of teenagers who are curious, easily influenced by others, and emotionally volatile due to heavy schoolwork, competitive study environments, and high parental expectations, which can cause anxiety and insecurity. Moreover, parental comparisons and scoldings without understanding or accompanying their children can also cause them to develop complex and contradictory emotions, leading to various other consequences. Thus, it is evident that family affection, the way parents approach their children, understanding, respect, and encouragement are essential foundations to help children become more confident in their fragile lives as they encounter challenges in society.